You're listening to the Quint podcast.
As fresh Indo-China tensions flare up at the border, External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi agree that the current situation in Ladakh is not in the interest of either side. Jaishankar and his counterpart met on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organisation in Moscow at a luncheon meeting hosted by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov with hopes of making a breakthrough in the frosty ties. This came on the heels of an unspoken no-firing status quo reportedly being violated at the LAC for the first time in 45 years. After the meeting, in a 5-point joint media statement, the two ministers agreed that both countries should quote-unquote quickly disengage, maintain proper distance and ease tensions, and also abide by all the existing agreements and protocols on India-China boundary affairs. But does this joint statement indicate any major headway in the talks, or are the Indo-China dialogue stuck at a stalemate? Although Russia, which currently holds the presidency of RIC, SEO and BRICS, responded to the Indo-China tensions in very measured words so far, will it be able to play a role in diffusing tensions between the two? And for this podcast, we spoke to Mr. Vishnu Prakash, who's been the former High Commissioner to Canada, South Korea, and also the official spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs. You're tuned in to The Big Story, the podcast where we dissect the headline-making news for you. And I'm your host, Shorbri. The trilateral meet between Russia, India and China was last held virtually on 23rd June this year, which was also the first time that External Affairs Minister S Jaishankar and his Chinese counterpart had a FaceTime with each other after the first army casualties in the LAC in 45 years. That meeting was held to mark 75 years of victory over the Axis Pass, but neither India nor China had made any direct references to the friction between them back then. And the Russian Foreign Minister had also ruled out the possibility of Moscow acting as a mediator between India and China. But the Indo-China impasse continues for more than 3 months now, since it began with the Galvan Valley standoff in May. And as India took chair of the RIC process in Moscow on 10th September, given the prevailing tensions between the countries, all eyes were on the outcome of the second meeting between the foreign ministers of the countries and whether Russia will be able to play a role in diffusing tensions. Although there's no official word from the MEA yet, from what we know, the meeting between India and China's foreign ministers lasted more than 2 hours, where Jaishankar is believed to have strongly raised concerns on China trying to unilaterally change the status quo at the border through aggression by the PLA. He also reportedly rejected China's allegation that Indian troops had crossed the LAC on the intervening night of 29th and 30th August and asked Beijing to withdraw the troops from the areas where they station currently in an eyeball-to-eyeball situation with the Indian troops. As you know, in August 10, the Indian Army had occupied certain areas near the southern bank of Pangong Tso in what they described as a quote-unquote preemptive action when they saw PLA troops try to do the same. For more details on that incident and why the South Bank has become a flashpoint in the flaring tensions, you can also check out the previous episode of The Big Story on Indo-China ties. You can find the link to that episode on our show notes. But coming back to the meeting, after a quote-unquote full in-depth discussion, both sides reached at a 5-point consensus and agreed to take guidance from the series of consensus of the leaders on developing India-China relations, not allowing differences to become disputes, and also, quote, expedite work to conclude new confidence-building measures to maintain and enhance peace and tranquility in the border areas, end quote. But does that indicate any major headway in de-escalating tensions? Retired Indian diplomat Vishnu Prakash gives his reading of the joint media statement.
Yes, we don't know what exactly was discussed. What we have is the joint media statement, and where the salient differences and the salient expectations have been outlined, which is pretty standard in my view, because all these are very well known that differences should not be disputes, that it's not in the interest of anyone, etc., etc. But the bottom line, in my view, is just one, and that is that China should withdraw its troops so as to restore status quo ante as of the 1st of May 2000, and that commitment is missing.
Now, coming to why Russia can play a role in impacting the Indo-China equations, if the Sino-Russian strategic relationship has grown stronger in the past few years, Russia and India have had ties spanning decades. If China is Russia's biggest trading partner and biggest Asian investor, Russia continues to be India's principal defense partner, with about 68% of India's arms import in the last 5 years coming from Russia. But what is also an important point to note is that despite their strong ties, Russia and China don't always agree with each other. For instance, Russia has not yet recognized Chinese claims over the South China Sea and maintains a close partnership with Vietnam. And likewise, Beijing doesn't recognize Russian takeover of Crimea. So, can Russia help in diffusing Indo-China border tensions? Talking about Russia and China's checkered past, Mr. Prakash says that Russia's relation with India has been much more consistent.
Well, Russia has very good relations both with China and India. With China, they have had a checkered history. There has been ups and downs. With India, it has been a consistent history. It has been much more consistent. And between India and Russia, there are no divergences, so to say. But at the same time, Russia is quite conscious of the fact that neither China nor India wants any mediation, for the simple reason that we have, as we all know, so many dialogue mechanisms at different levels. So Russia has not offered or nor have we sought any mediation. But being in Moscow helps, because if you are to be talking with each other in a neutral third country, that the best place in my view will be Russia, because Russia has the gravitas of encouraging, at least informally, both sides, especially China, in my view, and they're tinged with hope, to encourage them to look at the big picture and not engage in the kind of adventurism. I mean, I don't know whether they've said it or not, but they are best placed. And we are in a difficult situation because the relationship has been badly affected. All these confidence-building measures, agreements, understandings at the highest level, including that informal summit of the two leaders, have been thrown out the window. So we have a difficult situation.
But even as the diplomatic and military dialogues continue, India has also been accusing PLA troops of making repeated attempts to capture areas near the southern bank of Pangong Tso for military dominance. And recently, on 7 September, India yet again alleged the PLA of trying to confront Indian soldiers with sharp weapons in a bid to enter Indian territory illegally, which also led both sides to opening fire near the Chushul sector close to the LAC. It was also the first time in 45 years that a border conflict led to firing at the LAC. The last time was in 1975 when an Assam Rifles patrol was ambushed by the Chinese in Tulungla in Arunachal Pradesh. But even though reports say that there were no injuries at the LAC and both sides have also rejected allegations of any violations, is the firing itself a sign that things are going downhill? Mr. Prakash says that it's unfortunate that China is engaging in such adventurism.
Very much so. The border has been tranquil since 1975, and now since early May, the Chinese have positioned themselves in such large numbers. There's a massive build-up. They are building infrastructure of all kinds, and their intentions are certainly not benign. It is anything but benign. And they are not there, in my view, to look for a face saver or pull out in a hurry. And it is, of course, it has gone south when they attack Indian soldiers with medieval weapons, or they try to occupy different positions, and then they engage in firing, even though in the air. No, these are not good signs, and all the more it is risky because both sides are on the hair trigger alert. Troops are at some places are at 100-meter distance from each other. So it's unfortunate that our neighbor is engaging in this kind of an adventurism.
If you like listening to this episode, please subscribe to the Big Story playlist for episodic updates. We're live on Apple, Google Podcast, Spotify, JioSaavn, and most of the other popular podcast streaming platforms. For other podcasts, please log on to the Quint website and check out the podcast section. For any feedback, shoot an email to podcasts@thequint.com.
Thanks for listening. Log on to the Quint's website and check out our other podcasts.